Aloha and welcome to this brief screencast on the Typescript Playground. I've navigated to typescriptlang.org/play, and I've loaded no code in here, so we get our blank screen. And we have a whole bunch of things. You can run the code, you can type in TypeScript code here. There's a bunch of, you can learn how to download TypeScript, a lot of stuff on the documentation, and definitely suggest if you're new to TypeScript, take a look at the TypeScript for Java, C++, or C# people, or TypeScript for JavaScript, or a new programmer. Take a look at the documentation. You can also, this is the example when you started raw. There's a handbook that you could read, community playground. So here's a const, we console log, and over on the right-hand side, we have several little tabs that you can change by looking at the settings, so you can turn them on or turn them off if you want to. The first tab is the JavaScript, so this shows you what the TypeScript code gets compiled to. So the comments stay in there, we have a variable, and then we have that. Any types that are declared, that's what the .d.ts files are. Any errors, the TypeScript errors in the compilation, and then if we run the code, we can see the output in the logs. So if we hit run, we switch over to the logs, we see the word hello world. Now, if we went in here and said something like let x, and then we can supply a type by hitting the colon and say number, and we assign it to 3, just for fun. Now, if we say x equals foo, we get an error. And we can take a look at the error, and it says string is not assignable to number, which is correct. TypeScript says we're not allowed, that we typed x to be a number, and we can't assign a string to it. So we have a TypeScript error. Console.log x. Now, if we go back to the JavaScript tab, notice that the JavaScript is still there. And it does, the JavaScript is not a typed language, so it doesn't care. So if we run this, we see the hello world from line 11, and we also see foo because the JavaScript is what runs. So TypeScript will tell you there's an error, but it does, depending on your config set, it will emit JavaScript that allows you to do this. So when we're writing code, you may see a bunch of TypeScript errors that you want to fix because we want a strongly typed language, but depending on how you config your TypeScript compiler, it will still output valid JavaScript, or JavaScript that is valid for JavaScript and runs. But we still have our type error, which is correct, but since it's JavaScript, we can still run it and see the foo that came out, the string. But that's just an aside. There's a bunch of great examples. There's a way of setting up the configuration, and there's a bunch of things. There's great help, examples, playground. Let's go back to reload that. And so remember, it remembers your code, and that's another great thing. So it remembers your code, and it will update the URL, and you can save the URL. So for example, let's see if I can find an example. Let's see how it remembered my code. I have a new tab, and it remembered my code. So you can, when you're working on the TypeScript, you can save it, and then you can actually save the URL. When you come back, you'll see your code. If you don't want that, you can always just delete the code and get back to a clean thing. I hope this gives you a brief overview. play around with these things, take a look at some of the examples, definitely read through the docs. If you're a Java programmer, definitely read through this. There's a whole bunch of other excellent references for TypeScript. I think this is a great resource for learning TypeScript. Thank you very much.